What is music theory? Music theory is, by definition, the naming and identification of a jumble of sounds. For example, what scale is this? It's a C major scale. Each part of this name is used in differentiating this jumble of sounds from a different jumble of sounds. The C means it is in the key of C rather than the key of D or G sharp. The word major makes it the opposite of C minor. The word scale makes it not an arpeggio or a chord. But what if it was a chord? Well, then it would probably sound like this. That's interesting, but what if it wasn't that? What if it was just 3 notes? No, not those notes. These notes. That is a C major triad. Sounds much better, doesn't it? But what if I made it sad? That is a C minor triad. You also have a C diminished chord and a C augmented chord. With all of that, you can make some pretty weird sounds. But that's what makes music so great. It doesn't have to sound normal to sound good. The definition of normal music has been twisted time and time again by many people. For example, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard is an Australian psychedelic rock band that famously experimented with microtones. Initially giving the listener a feeling of discomfort. Music can only be truly enjoyed if you don't think of them as out of tune, but rather new notes that the ear hasn't been accustomed to yet. Sometimes, you don't even have to use real notes. If music theory is naming a jumble of sounds, then that would make music simply a jumble of sounds. Those sounds don't have to be neat and tidy all the time. There's a genre of music literally called harsh noise, which is exactly what it sounds like. Masao Yamazaki, also known as Masona, is a very prolific Japanese noise musician. In 1996, he made an album called Hyperchaotic, which sounds like this. It's abhorrent garbage, but it's meant to be like that. Yamazaki literally took inspiration from the destruction noises he heard on TV. So we've talked about proper music theory, slightly out of the ordinary notes, and full-on twists on what music is. But can we take it one step further? What if we took this idea of jumbles of sounds and broke it down to its purest, most literal meaning? This is the case of 4:33 by John Cage. It is 4 minutes, 33 seconds of silence. Or is it? Because there's not just silence in the hall. There's a shuffling of footsteps, the adjusting of seats, the babies crying. Every recording and performance of 4:33 is ever so slightly different because, in the words of Cage, there's no such thing as silence. It is known as Cage's most controversial work, sparking the argument on what defines music. Can you classify a performance with no musical notes music? Does the noise of the audience count as the notes within the song? These questions have been asked repeatedly ever since 4:33 was conceived in 1952. My personal stance is this. 4:33 is art, and it is art involving the creation of sound. That, I believe, makes it music. But that's up to you. Music theory is, by definition, the naming and identification of a jumble of sounds. Music is a beautiful thing, but it is also a living thing, constantly evolving to challenge the ideas of what can be considered great. It is not the people that follow the rules that revolutionize music, it is the people that break them.